scouting at in his draft year? You guys ended up taking Colby Barlow a few picks later, but is this a player that you had your eye on and you had a lot of viewings of? And what do you
certainly,
bring to the
yeah.
organization?
Thanks, Mike. Again, obviously, we're very excited to add Brayden to the organization. I think he's he's a very, very talented player in a very skilled position. At center where he can certainly make other players better around him, and that's kind of what we've watched and viewed, throughout his draft year, and obviously in subsequent scouting situations after that. Obviously, you never know what obviously comes up, and just because you don't end up drafting a player, you don't stop keeping tabs on him. So fortunately for us, we were able to come to agreement, with Pittsburgh here, and we're really excited. I had a chance to chat with Brayden here this morning, or I guess it was early afternoon when I talked to him, and he's really excited, and look forward to seeing him in Penticton, and our first chance to see him in a Jets uniform.
And then just as a follow-up on what's going the other way, I know you've been asked, obviously, earlier this summer about, what went wrong with Rutger McGroarty and that situation. Now that I guess a little more dust has settled on this, what can you tell us about why the need to move him became something that had to happen?
Sure, I'll take you through, I guess the timing of things. As we found out, we were at the draft combines and got a text from his agent that wanted to meet. So we sat down and chatted, and he informed us that Rutger had said that he didn't intend to sign. So that's the first inkling that we got that there was nothing that was going to come to fruition there. And when we sat down and asked the agent why, he said he didn't have an answer. He didn't have a reason. I went through a litany of questions, to the agent to see, was it player development? Was it, that we didn't burn a year? He says, no. And he just said he just didn't feel right. He said it kind of started in development camp where he just didn't feel right. And I said, well, I guess I'd just like to, have an answer. But anyway, I met with Rutger face-to-face several days later, and that was the same response as well. So he said that when he got to development camp here, he put the jersey on, became real, and it just didn't feel right at that time, and culminated with that. So again, if there's a specific reason, Rutger hasn't told us.
We'll go next to Murat Atesh from The Athletic. Go ahead, Murat.
Sorry, just getting the mic unmuted there. I guess, you lay things out really clearly there, what have you, but that's the big mystery, I think, in this situation, and certainly Rutger can speak for himself. You mentioned player development, and I'm wondering to what extent, relationships there ever seemed concerning, or if he wasn't taking feedback the way you wanted, or anything at all that in hindsight maybe makes that angle look a little clearer.
No, and again, I met with Rutger several times, in the regionals, flew and saw him, talked to him, met with his family, had the conversation with the agent around the end of the year about signing. We were going to have a Zoom call with, his family, about the different options and processes, and that they determined that they didn't need that he was going back to school, and we said, okay, well, we fully support you. So, but again, that's a situation that I think, if I look at, what we've got in return here, I think it's a player that fits, very well into our organization. I think that if you look at the prospects that we have coming, you've got a player like Barlow that plays wing, that was going to be complemented, exceptionally well by a player like Yager, at center. So I think it gives us a lot more depth amongst the organization. Brayden's a key part of a young team, or a team that went far in the playoffs last year. Obviously, World Junior experience. So we're just excited to have him as in our fold here, and looking forward to seeing him a couple of weeks.
And just on the note of Brayden as well, before I forget, as I understand it, he's CHL or NHL. Do you have access to any type of exemption there based on, I think he played 24 games once upon a time in a fourth WHL year?
Yeah, no, it's pretty, spelled out there when those players have exceptions, and he's a player that would have to play in the National League or, back in the CHL.
Thank you.
Go next to Scott Billick. Go ahead, Scott.
I remember these days of Zoom.
We're not hearing anything coming through, Scott. Ready? Anybody else want to step up in Scott's absence?
I go on.
Yeah, I can take. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
No, Kevin, I just have a quick question in terms of your comfort waiting on this deal. Would you have been comfortable going on the full year with Rutger still remaining at Michigan?
Well, again, I think, when you talk about making deals, it's about opportunity, it's about timing, it's about, what's in front of you. And, we spent our time, going over the different thought processes and obviously when this presented itself and it became real, we acted on it. So it's hard to, talk about hypotheticals, in this case, but, for us, when the opportunity was there to strike, we made the deal.
All right, let's give it another go here, Scott.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you.
There we go. All right, sorry about that. I think I know how to do this by now, but just in terms of, have you had a chance in all this time to kind of, I mean, I know, you don't want to not draft certain players for certain reasons, but, have you thought about the American pipeline? Is that somewhere that you'd be maybe more hesitant to go to moving forward, Kevin?
No, for us, again, I challenge our scouts to rate the players as they see them. It's not about passports. It's not about pushing a player up or knocking a player down for any other reasons. Again, for us, I think it'd be a disservice to the organization to not act in that fashion. The draft, it's an art. It's not a science, and certainly everyone's lists, as we all see, come draft day is very, very different. So sometimes things fall into your lap and you have to be prepared to do them. Sometimes you wish things fell differently, but as far as the approach moving forward, that's not going to change. We still need to make sure that you rank the players the way they should be.
Sure, thanks for that. And just going back to trading Rutger, I mean, there was a lot of talk around the draft about potentially moving him. What made this deal make the most sense? Like, I mean, it literally is a 1-for-1 in terms of where he was picked. I mean, different years, obviously, but in terms of draft picks and all that. But what made this deal, and what other ones were maybe on the table, if you can speak to anything?
Well, so for us, obviously, we spent our time, talking through the various, different scenarios that might present themselves. There was lots of different talk at the draft of something, coming to fruition, but nothing that we, were prepared to act on came our way. So this, we shifted gears, after, the draft and, as an organization, I think went through all the different organizations, prospects or, different scenarios that might have appealed to us, and just methodically, work through those things. I would say there was a great deal of conversations, that were had with various different teams. Some were very short. Some maybe had a little more legs, but this is the one ultimately that we felt is the proper direction for the organization.
Back to Mike McIntyre. Go ahead, Mike.
Kevin, just I realize this is hypothetical because it didn't happen, but had Rutger signed, I imagine as an organization, were you prepared to have him, come to training camp, and if he had earned a spot on the team, that's where he would have started? There was nothing conveyed to him about where he would start next season and perhaps time in the American Hockey League. Like, can you just speak to whether that was a factor from your end at all here?
I guess I don't know if I totally understand the question, but I guess, like everything that is hypothetical is hypothetical. So, it's, again, we make our decisions, for the greater good of the club, and all the players that are on it, that, they earn their opportunities, and that's never going to change. Again, every situation, again, it has its own kind of parameters around it or whatever, but as far as we're concerned here, training camp, from the drop of the puck at training camp, anybody has a great shot at making this team, if they deserve it and earn it, and that's, I don't think that changes much at all moving forward.
Go back to Murat. Go ahead, Murat.
Thanks, Gregor. Yeah, did he or his camp ever sort of ask for assurances about his path to the NHL, whether it was just a fair shot or 9 games or even more than that?
We have never had that conversation once.
Sure. And then also, also on the topic, I guess, of all of this. Actually, let me pivot. I also wanted to ask today about Cole Perfetti and conversations in that regard. I know camp's coming up. Sometimes these get done partway through camp. How are discussions going? How often are they happening? How close are you?
Again, I did have a conversation with his camp yesterday. Again, those discussions are ongoing. I think that when it comes to RFAs without arbitration rights, sometimes these things do go on in the summer for various different reasons. But again, hopefully it's something that we get done sooner rather than later. I know he's been out, I think, with guys like Scheif and JMO and Lau's skating and stuff like that. So obviously, he's doing his part in getting ready for the season and looking forward to it.
Go back to Scott Billick. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, just to dovetail off of Murat there. Is long term on the table for Cole on your side right now?
I'm not getting into any negotiations or any conversations about ongoing negotiations.
Okay. You've probably seen all of his peers this summer sort of signing long term. There's a lot of long term deals for a lot of his peers this summer, guys who have come off their ELCs on the same draft year. Is that also, I mean, does that sort of give you some of idea of where his camp might want to take it then?
Again, those kind of things are
trying.
Yeah, those kind of things are between us and the agent, and obviously, like I say, we come to sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Go next, Mitchell Clinton. Go ahead.
Thanks, Gregor. Kevin, just a kind of a odd question kind of down the line here, but when I was talking to Yager a little while ago, I asked him, is this the first time you've ever been traded in your life? And he just kind of said, yeah, like this, you kind of realized it. I'm just curious from your guys' standpoint. Obviously, you talk to the player, but is it player development that would then maybe kind of help him through a lot of this stuff that he's probably experiencing for the first time as he prepares to come to a new organization?
Well, I think the good part about when a player comes from the CHL is and has been drafted is they've gone to a training camp already, so they know what to expect going into the training camp and those type of things. Obviously, they've gone through development camps as well. It will be different, I'm sure, for him, changing organizations. But again, that's kind of why you have, like you said, the development side of things, and you have the team services side of things, and whether it's trainers or whether it's travel people, the logistics of all that is going to start moving, very, very quickly. And so again, I assume it's a whirlwind for him today. I talked to him, like I say, he was pretty excited. Again, a kid from the prairies to get to play for a prairie team, I think is something that, he was pretty proud of.
We'll go to Paul Friesen from the Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
Hey, Kevin. Apologize if you answered this before I got on, but we've heard some talk of how the handling of players like Perfetti and Ville Heinola is maybe a concern for other prospects. Have you responded to that here today?
Well, I don't know. I guess obviously, every player is different. I think that, certain situations for players, like Perfetti, we obviously started him at 19 years old. Unfortunately, he got injured, right away, or relatively right away when he came back from the World Juniors. And obviously a player like Ville, who made the team out of training camp last year and probably would have been in game one, breaks his ankle and, it's an unfortunate situation. So I think, again, younger players, there's ups, there's downs, there's different things that come a long way. I remember, vividly remember talking to, Kyle Connor and his agent, when he got sent down, the second time obviously for them, it could have gone one way or another. They could have taken it as a demotion, but he went down there, lit up the American League. When the opportunity then presented itself, I think it was Perreault got hurt and he came up and played. He never looked back and just all those different situations. Every player, every individual, is different. And I look back at, the way things worked out with a guy like Connor Hellebuck, where, as an organization, once, he had proved that, he was ready. We sent a goalie down making $4+ million, I think it was, in order to make room for him. I think, you look at a lot of different situations. It all depends on the individuals and everyone is different. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is no one gets put in front of the organization and the greater good of the collective team.
So based on what you've heard from agents, there's no concern on your part about that.
Well, I think there's always the want for younger players to get there fast. I think as an organization, and if you kind of do a real deep dive, it's more important to get there long than it is to get there fast. To stay, to become a pro and extend your career as opposed to, try to get in there and not be ready. I think the National Hockey League, it's maybe a little bit more so now than it was because of the cap and different situations like that where you have younger players coming in, but it's probably, in some cases, teams maybe kick themselves because they do rush them because of cap reasons or because of, those kind of things. And in the long run, the player doesn't necessarily reach their peak or their potential. So that's why, it is important to look at every situation, differently. And, so that's kind of how you have to approach it with younger players.